In this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips for pricing your wedding stationery, so let's go ahead and dive in. Hi, I'm Laney. I'm a wedding invitation designer and I love to teach people how to start and grow successful stationery businesses. So if you're interested in becoming a wedding invitation designer, or if you're already on the path but you're not feeling super confident in your pricing, you've come to the right place. Give us a like and a subscribe while you're here and watch so many of our other videos on our stationery design playlist to learn even more. Now, if you're interested in pricing, I do have a 4+ hour course called Power in Pricing that goes through every single thing you could possibly think of about pricing your stationery, but here are 5 quick tips that you can use to improve your pricing game today. All right, so first of all is knowing your actual time if you're gonna price by time. There are, of course, other pricing strategies, but most of us start by pricing for our time. Therefore, you have to actually know how long something takes you. And when you do this, you wanna make sure you're including design, any illustrating or drawing or calligraphy, any painting, any research you're doing, consultations, emails, everything. You're not just tracking the time that it takes you to actually put the invitation together, but you're tracking the time it takes to assemble and do print ordering and everything else that's involved with the entire job. I would imagine that it's taking you a little bit longer than you think. Maybe the design is taking you less time than you think. That's what I found when I started tracking my work. But all the other admin stuff that I had to do was taking longer. And so I needed to up my prices to cover that. Just use the stopwatch on your phone, or if you have a system like Dubsado, Honeybook, Hello Bonsai, etc., then they often have time trackers built in that you can use for that job. Now, number 2 is kind of about how you structure your invoices. You're gonna want to consider the fact that people can negotiate things down and can negotiate things off of the invoice as long as you're itemizing. So anything that they can't negotiate down, that's where you want to put your higher priced items or the kind of benchmarks for doing this job. One time I had a job where she asked for like 50 things on the invoice, and so I ended up kind of pricing some things that I wanted to a little higher and some things lower. She ended up getting rid of all the higher price stuff, and of course you can always say you're not allowed to change this, etc. But this was when I was a little bit newer, and so I let her bring it down and ended up just doing a couple things that were really lower priced, and I wasn't getting fairly compensated for them. It would have been fine if I was also getting some of the other stuff, but at that time I wasn't. So a lot of designers have a design fee to cover things like this. I'm gonna put all the time it takes me to do this job, the bare minimum that I wanna make, in that design fee. And then I'm also gonna round up on the invitation piece a little bit more. So I have a line item that includes invitation, RSVP card, and 2 envelopes. That's the main suite. No one's gonna get rid of that. So I'm gonna put a little bit more profit in that. And then some of the other things that they might get rid of, like wax seals, ribbons, etc., I'm just gonna put exactly what I need for that item and not put some of the calculations for my time and my margins and my taxes and things as much in those line items. All right, number 3 is making sure your clients are paying for your extras. So if you're doing like a digitally printed suite that then has to be sent to a letterpress printer that you then have to cut or tear an edge or paint or do anything to, you're gonna need a lot of extras. Even to get 100 out of that, sometimes I need to order like 150, 180, depending on all the different things that I'm doing to it. And even if I'm doing nothing to it, I still need to order like 5, 10 extras because there might be a bent corner, there might be some paper with blemishes, etc. And I also need samples for my future work and my portfolio. So when you're pricing everything out, you wanna make sure the client is paying for this. If you do purchase my course, Power in Pricing, we have some spreadsheets in here that already do account for all those extras. But for instance, if you're charging for 100 and you need to order 105 because you need 5 extras, just make sure you're taking the total cost and dividing that out by 100 on your invoice. Number 4 is about how you structure invoices already. I think there's so much power in how you structure an invoice, and something that I'll encourage you to do is use round numbers. They're easier for people to contemplate, they're easier for people to understand, and they're easier to look at. I know that sounds a little bit silly, but it's easier to look at $5 than it is to look at $4.62. So if you can just kind of try to err on the side of using those round numbers, it's gonna be easier for your clients, even if it ends up costing them a little bit more. And that brings me to number 5, which is round up. If you do take my pricing course, you'll see that I round up just so much because I don't like to worry about things like, if my printer charges a $2.16 order price, or if the shipping needs to be rushed a little bit, or if there's just something that I didn't account for, a misprint, a rush order, something's out of stock, and I have to order it from multiple places and pay multiple shipping charges. I need to round up in order to cover all of those unexpected things. So I always recommend doing 10 to 15% kind of rounding up. You can use those round numbers as a way to make up some of this money, but you might even find that rounding down like 10 cents is helpful in one place, and then rounding up like 65 cents in another place is helpful to get those round numbers and feel like everything on the invoice is really balanced. But either way, you never know what those unexpected costs are going to be, and there's a lot of little things that, yes, you could calculate into your pricing, but it's a little easier just to kind of round up and account for 10 to 15% extra, so you don't have to worry about like that $2.16 every time. So if these 5 tips were helpful in pricing your stationery and structuring your invoices in a way that makes sense for your clients and also makes you all the profit that you need to make to be fairly compensated for your time, your energy, and all the expenses associated with the order. If you want to dive way, way, way deeper, check out Power and Pricing. I'll link it in the description of this video. And while you're here, I hope you'll check out so many of our other stationery design videos and let me know what you think. Thanks, everybody.